All right, so in this activity, this is activity 4 of lesson 1.3. We're going to make histograms for a population of 12 individuals. So if we were in class, I would have given you 12 of those and this sheet, and you were going to make different histograms, thinking about how many bars you should have in each histogram, and then how high each bar should be based on the instructions for the activity. So let's pretend like we did it, and that you did it, but you didn't, and I did it. And so now I'm going to explain the different options. So this first one, you can see instruction 1, it says make a histogram with no variation. So you can see that there's only one bar and there's no variation in this histogram. So it's all 12 cubes are distributed under one trait. So the next histogram is 2, is to make a histogram with a low variation. And you can see that means that there's going to be very few traits in this population. So you're going to have very few bars, and I chose to do 2. You could do 3, but you probably wouldn't want much more than that for low variation. And the height doesn't matter. So the distribution in each of these traits doesn't matter. The point is that there's a low variation. So the cubes are only in a couple of these boxes. So there's only 2 traits that we see here. So the next one, number 3, is to make a histogram with a high variation. And so I chose to do sort of a bell-shaped distribution, where the variation, it's a high variation in all of them, but it's distributed where there's a smaller amount on the side and we increase as we go in the middle. So it creates this sort of bell curve is what we'd call it. This is called a normal distribution. And so then the last one is 4, make a histogram with high variation but a different distribution. So this is a high variation because you can see that all traits have a distribution. So each trait, each one of these columns has a distribution, but they're equal. So each trait has equal distribution. So every trait has 2 cubes in it. And so this is high variation, but it has a different distribution than this one because the cubes are not distributed equally here, and they are distributed equally here. They both still have a high variation. They just have a different distribution. So the level of variation describes how many different traits are present in the population. The more variation, the more traits in the population. And then distribution tells us how many individuals have each of those traits. So lots of variation. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 traits and 2 individuals with each trait. We also have 6 traits, but we have only 1 individual with this trait, 2 individuals with this trait, 3 individuals with these 2 traits, 2 and 1. So we show the amount of individuals with the trait by changing the height in the bar. So you can see here that on these low variations, they have a lot of individuals with that trait as a larger distribution. And so we're going to explore distribution of traits in further lessons. This is just to get us started.